Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Dynamic, and I'm going to be here today ranking every single pitcher in MLW. Now, before we start the video, I just have a couple of things to get out of the way. If you are a recurring subscriber, you probably noticed something different. Obviously, I'm not doing a voiceover of videos. This is kind of the way I want to start doing videos now, more like filming me and, interacting a little bit more, just because I think that editing gets kind of tiresome for the audience. So, it's just something different for a little bit. So let me know in the comments what y'all think about that. Another thing is that for today's list, we're going to be doing it a tiny bit differently for the other ones I do. First of all, I'm going to be ranking these pitchers number one on if they were in a game-winning game or a situation where we needed to win a game, how comfortable I would feel with playing them. So number one is going to be super comfortable. These are the people that are the aces. They've done it before, they have experience. And number 20 are going to be the people that, they probably don't have the experience, and I just don't think they're the best pitchers. So that's the basis I'm going to be going on for this video, is how comfortable would I feel pitching them in a must-win game. Also, another thing to mention, I am including everyone who has thrown a pitch this year, except for a couple guys. I'm only including 20 players. There's about 23 or 24, but I'm not including guys like Levi Fleer or Landon Urquides, and there's two more. And the reason I'm not is because those guys would be criminally low on the list just because they have little to no pitching experience. And because of that, I just feel like the first four in our list, there wouldn't really be much to talk about. It'd literally just be well, I don't know. I haven't seen them do anything. And that's true. I haven't seen them do anything. So for them, we're kind of just skipping to mostly the aces and then the second, third, and fourth options. So without further ado, make sure y'all subscribe if you like MLW. If you want to see more MLW content, make sure you guys subscribe, man. You can always unsubscribe if you don't like the videos. And who knows, if you don't subscribe, maybe you might miss one that you really like. So make sure to subscribe, and let's just get into this. All right, so starting with number 20, I'm going to go with Evan Trackhman from the Eagles. He's their number 2 arm as of right now, and he's played in 2 games that have both been pretty unimpressive. He's lost both of them with over a 10 ERA. And, I will say this, and I said it a little earlier on the channel. Obviously, he's the 8th overall pick. You can't really expect him to do too much, but it is a bit worrying right now as an Eagles fan, him being your second arm, because he has just given up so many runs. He lacks control. I've heard from the MLW community that he has some pretty nasty stuff, but we haven't seen it in MLW yet, and that's why I feel like I have to put him at 20, because as of right now, he's pretty much the worst of 2 evils. He doesn't have the experience, and he doesn't have control on the mound, and that's not who you want in a must-win game. Now, he's still really young. By no means, if I could pick one of these 20 players, he would be last, because he's young, he has potential, he can still grow, but as of right now, I'm not seeing a ton from him that I love from the mound. All right, and then at number 19, I'm going to go with Sean Hornberger from the Wildcats. He's one of those guys where if I were to rank the talent, I think I'd rank him pretty high, but this Wildcats team is stacked, and he's just not going to get that many opportunities, which sucks for him, because I think he actually is a good pitcher. He obviously had a really rough first game in that game 2 in Slate 1, but he's one of those guys to me where I think his opportunities this year are just going to be limited, just because they have Baalman, they have Jaxen Pearson. He'll be a decent third arm for them, but he really, really needed a good first game. And because the league is so close this year, I don't think Kyle's going to want to take the risk of throwing him out there. I bet that he will get more opportunities, though, especially as this year goes on and as his career goes on. But as of right now, I just haven't seen enough. I know he was the number 1 overall pick, and that, he didn't play up to how good we've seen him in the past in other leagues and other tournaments. But for right now, I just have to put him in 19, just because I haven't really seen too much from him. At 18, I'm going to go with Drew Davis from the Cobras. Now, him and Caden are the only 2 guys that have the ability to pitch on this team, and I give Drew credit for letting himself pitch, because there are some managers, for example like Daniel Schultz, who he doesn't put himself out there enough. Evan Trackhman's had 2 opportunities, and I hope Daniel Schultz will put himself out there more, but Drew Davis is pretty confident in his ability, and that doesn't seem to be a problem with him. I love his confidence. I just think that he just isn't as good as he used to be. You know, the league is definitely developing a bit. There's some control issues. I don't really think he pitches that much in his arsenal that he can really throw out there to guys. I think he will improve. Like, by the end of the year, I could see him sliding down to 16, 15, but, you know, only time can tell. All right, then at 17, I'm going to go with Brady Pearson from the Metro Magic. He had a monster game. I will just say that he had a monster game against the Gators a couple days ago. Don't get me wrong, huge game, but from the mound, he isn't super impressive. The stats on the MLW website haven't updated yet, but he did, I believe, give up 4 runs before he was taken out. He's one of those guys where I think he'll develop super nicely, just like his brother, but as of right now, just doesn't really have the experience. His pitches don't look bad, and that's why he's at 17, is because I feel like I would still rather have him over the other, 3 pitches. And it's kind of a similar situation to Hornberger, where he might not get that many opportunities because, the Magic, technically they have 4 pitchers. So, his opportunities will probably be limited. But from the plate, I mean, if you're a Magic fan like I am, you just love what you saw from him because the Magic need hitting and he can hit super well. So I think he'll continue to develop. Don't be surprised if he becomes a top 10 pitcher in the league, just not right now. All right, at 16, I'm going to go with Stephan McGlade. I've been really hard on Stephan McGlade throughout the history of this channel. If you have been watching my videos, you know that. But I really just think that the reason he's above all these pitchers is just his experience. He's pitched in a lot of games. Other than Drew Davis, I think he's the most experienced pitcher on here by far. And should he have had those opportunities? Probably not. I still don't think he is an amazing pitcher. I wouldn't even consider him a good pitcher. I actually think he's more of a liability when he's out there. He just, once again, some control issues. And then when he does put the ball at the plate, it feels like guys are able to read that super well. Some guys they struggle with getting movement when it's not a ball. You know what I mean? They'll get their movement, but it will just, be kind of a wild pitch. And I think Stephan McGlade's one of those guys. I don't really know how much longer he has in the league. I could see something happening where maybe you trade him to a team like the Eagles, a team that desperately needs a second arm, and you're saying, hey, Stephan McGlade, listen, he might not be the best, but we can get him for next to nothing, and he will probably be slightly better than Trackhman. I don't know. It's hard to say. He's one of those guys to me that's just, it's kind of a mystery he's still in the league at this point. So at 15, I'm going to go with John Paul Gunn. He's another guy similar to Brady Pearson. Obviously, they're both on the Magic that are going to get limited opportunities this year just because the Magic have so many pitchers. But I think I have slightly more confidence in him than I have in Brady Pearson when it comes to the mound right now, just because he has that longer reach. He's more, I think, experienced than Brady Pearson because obviously he plays in Pat Baalman's league, the NWL. And he's just one of those guys that, to me, it seems like he's a good pitcher that had a rough first series, kind of bounced back in the second series. You never really know what you're going to get from rookies pitching in the MLW. So I'm interested to see Paul Gunn and Pearson continue to compete with Grant Miller. And yeah, we'll just see what happens. In my opinion, though, I would put him slightly above Pearson. All right, and then at 14, I'm going to go with Grant Miller. Similar situation to all the guys I said. He's one of those guys, too, who I debated not putting on the list just because he's more of a hitter. But in my opinion, he's a great pitcher. MLW doesn't really suit his strengths. He's more of a fast pitch guy, but he can do a lot of damage still from the mound. He has some really nice pitches. He's able to really sneak inside the zone without guys sort of realizing. It's kind of crazy to me that he hasn't gotten a ton of experience from the mound in his entire MLW career, but there's always been Trevor Bonham, and he did miss this last series, so there is that to look at as well. But honestly, I just think Grant Miller's one of those guys where if he pitched more, I could probably put him higher, but as of right now, he's one of those guys where I'd take him as a solid second option if he was there all the time. All right, at 13, I'm going to go with Evan Porter. This is somebody who I think might be kind of a controversial pick because this could be either overrated or underrated. I think it's perfectly rated, but I know some people will think, oh, he's a top 10 pitcher. Guys, Evan Porter has played 1 game in the MLW. I know he has some nasty stuff. I think him being short is actually an advantage because those pitches are coming from different arm slots than guys are used to. He's a lefty. That's another big advantage. But I'm just not at a point yet where I can put him any higher than 13 when he's only played 1 game. And he was dealing with an injury in the second series. I'm not saying that's his fault or anything, but it's hard to take a guy like that. You got to take into account, obviously, everything he's done in the league. And while he had a great game, you got to remember that was against one of the worst hitting teams in the entire league. I like what I saw from him. He has high potential, but as of right now, we're 6 games into the season, and I just have to put him at 13. All right, guys, listen, I know my handwriting's really bad on the board, but you're just going to have to stick with me because it's kind of hard, right? I got to, reach over. It's not easy. But at 12, I'm going to go with Trey Flood. He's a guy to me that is a little bit overrated. Don't get me wrong. He's a great second option. I really like that he pounds the zone. He's a super aggressive pitcher. He just pounds the zone over and over and over again, and he makes guys hit on him. Well, a lot of times that doesn't work because especially, obviously the first series they went against a good hitting team, and he just got smoked in that game too. So he has Jordan Robles for help, which I think is going to end up making him look better. And when he was on the Diamondbacks, he had Jimmy Knorp. I can see him, if he continues to develop his hitting and he gets slightly better at pitching, I can see him as an all-star year out, year in. But as of right now, I just don't think he's that good of a pitcher, and I would be nervous if I put him in one of those game-winning or one of those, we need to win this game situations, just because he's not one of those guys to me that is super clutch from the mound. So next on this list, I'm going to go with Jeremy Adams. High expectations for this kid this year. I think he is better from the plate than he is from the mound. He's still a really solid pitcher. I think he has a chance to beat out Sawyer Bian with how he was playing last series if he pitches that well, but he's just one of those guys to me where, he has some good stuff, but he's not invincible. I've never really seen Jeremy Adams get too hot. I've never really seen him get too cold. He's always kind of one of those guys that he's going to give up 0 runs, 1 run, or 2 runs. And early in his career, he gave up a couple more than that. But from that point on, he's been pretty consistent. That's what I like about him. He's a very consistent player. But you kind of know what you're going to get with him already. And that's why I have to put him at 11, just because I could never see Jeremy Adams throwing a no-hitter. And I know that's crazy. I know that's a lot of expectations to have, but I just don't see it happening. Right, so this is the first, I think, real controversial take, is I'm going to go Jimmy Knorp 10, Jake Sullivan 9. And I know what people are thinking. Obviously, Jimmy Knorp, he's clutch. He has it in him. I think they're interchangeable, though. Seriously, Jake Sullivan, to me, he's just looked almost invincible this year. I kind of wish I could put him higher just because of how well he's been playing. But obviously, like I said, he's only played 3 games. Jimmy Knorp's only played 2 games. So that's something we need to look at. Jake Sullivan, though, he's a beast. He is a beast. And right now, Jimmy Knorp is not pitching his best. He's 0-2 from the mound this year. And that's just something I got to look at. If I'm the Diamondbacks and I'm going into this game, if we win, we make the playoffs. If we lose, we don't. It's an extremely tough decision to go with Jake Sullivan or Jimmy Knorp. I think I would lean towards Jake Sullivan, though. I think I'm just leaning towards the guy. He's hot right now. He pitches a really good ball. I mean, he was pitching super well against the Eagles in a game where you're out of state. There's a lot of nerves. He's a rookie, and he just looked very calm, cool, collected. So I have to put him over Jimmy Knorp, even though Jimmy Knorp is still an elite pitcher. I think by the end of the year, Jimmy Knorp could be a top 6, top 5 pitcher. It's just right now he's been struggling, and I'm not exactly sure why. All right, I'm going to do a very similar thing here with number 8 and 7. I'm going to go Jaxen Pearson at 8 and Pat Baalman at 7. It's very similar, like I said, to the Diamondback situation. You got 2 guys that could both be your aces, and I think on any other given team that doesn't have top 3 pitchers in the league, they would be an ace. But both of these guys, obviously, they're really talented. Their pitching style is very different. But the reason I'm going to have Pat Baalman just edging out Jaxen Pearson just by a little bit is just because I see a little bit more potential in him, just because he's still pretty young. He's still kind of figuring out his game, and he only really had 1 bad game, which caused Jaxen Pearson to get momentum. I'm not saying Jaxen Pearson in any way is done progressing or anything like that, but Jaxen Pearson is a bona fide all-star. We know what we get from him pretty much every year. He's pretty consistent most years, and I think Pat Baalman still has a little bit more potential. So honestly, this one's a little weird because if we're in one of those, like I said last time, You're the Wildcats. You have to win to get in the playoffs. I think you have to go with Pat Baalman because he's kind of been the guy up to this point, and he's been put in situations like that. But also, if they did go with Jaxen Pearson, you can't be mad at that as a Wildcats fan. He's the one with the experience, but it was very close between them, like probably even closer than Jake Sullivan and Jimmy Knorp. Honestly, all four of those players, if you interchange them in any way, I'd be okay with that. Like, I could definitely see that. All right, at number 6, I'm going to go with Sawyer Bian. I know he just came off of a pretty rough series against the Magic, a team that's not the best at hitting, so it's not the greatest look. But I still do have confidence in him as a good player. It just looked like he just lost momentum immediately there and kind of shut down. That's something I've never seen from Sawyer, so it was a bit head-scratching to me. Still, though, I think he has a chance to go for that MVP campaign, even though he had kind of a bad series. Obviously, he's dominant from the plate as well as the mound. I'm going to have him above some of these, Jeremy Adams, Jimmy Knorp, Jaxen Pearson guys, just because I think what he brings is different than them. Like, when I go against any pitcher, honestly, below Sawyer Behen, I wouldn't say I don't fear them, but a lot of it is, I'm thinking, all right, we'll hit some runs off of these guys. We definitely have a chance. Anyone Sawyer Bian and above, I kind of fear them. And with Sawyer Bian, it's not even exactly his pitching, it's just his attitude on the mound. He's aggressive. He can get hot super fast. Obviously, didn't really show it last series, but sometimes that's the way it goes. So I'm gonna go with him at 6, and then I'm gonna go with RJ Walgate at 5. Now, if it wasn't for the last series, I probably would have flipped these two. But RJ proved to me, at least, that he can pitch super well. And like Kyle mentioned in the video, there's always a thing in the back of his head that if he doesn't pitch a shutout, they could lose the game because the Magic are just not good at hitting. But he's proven time and time again that he's their ace. Even though he kind of had a bit of a sophomore slump last year, he's back to, his best form. And I think at some point people have to start recognizing him as one of the greatest pitchers in our league. But what I will say is that if he just becomes a little more consistent, that will push him to like top 4 status, top 3 status. That's just the one thing with him, is just inconsistency. He's always pretty good at finding the zone. It's just sometimes he gets people that hit off of him. He's a big momentum player. If he's feeling good momentum, he's going to pitch well. And if it's bad momentum, sometimes he'll struggle. But at 4, I'm going to go with Kaden Irwin. He's one of those guys where if you told me this like 2 years ago, I wouldn't have believed you that he was up here. But since Drew Davis traded for him, he has just found an insane role with the Cobras. He is the only reason that they have won 2 games up to this point, and he's just a dog. Like, he's putting the Cobras on his back, and Drew Davis is trying to put them on his back when it comes to hitting. He's doing a decent job, but Kaden, in my opinion, he's just one of those guys that, he's super consistent. I like that he pitches quick innings. You know what I mean? Like, he gets 1, 2, 3s all the time. And even when he doesn't, when there's a guy in first, second, even bases loaded, he usually always gets out of it. He's a very collected player. He's a very collected pitcher. And he's one of those guys where if I'm watching a Magic game, because I'm a Magic fan, I just hate going against him because I know he's going to bring some nasty stuff. So at 3, I'm going to go with Dallas Allen. He's a guy that has been number 1 in this league. He's been number 2 in this league. And this year, I would put him at number 3 just because of what I saw in the St. Louis series. I didn't really love what he was throwing out there. I mean, obviously, it was a very windy series, so that wasn't the best. But I just think Dallas, especially this year, he's just struggling a tiny bit more. He's still elite. He's still one of the best in our league. I could consider him going all the way up to 1 this year. Like, that's something I could definitely see happening. It's just, as of right now, I don't think he's better than the first 2 guys I put up. But I will say that he's obviously one of the greatest in our league. He has that banana ball. He has a pretty good 2-seamer. He's one of those guys that, in my opinion, he's elite. And there's nothing more that you could say about it. Like, if you watch him play, then you know. So then for number 2, I'm going to go with Ryan Cratch. He is interchangeable with the guy I'm going to put at number 1. But Ryan Cratch, I've just seen him get hit off of a little bit, not too bad. I mean, every year he's amazing. There's just no other way to put it. He's probably going to go win another MVP, which I think would be the 4th time in a row. So, he's just one of those guys that, he gets out there and he's going to deliver some amazing pitches. He does a bunch of off-speed stuff. He's just one of those guys where, you watch him play and you fear him. you fear Ryan Cratch. He's a great leader. The one thing that I think he needs to improve on is just being a manager, like some of the moves he makes. But if you're a Predators fan, him and Evan Porter, especially if Evan Porter pans out like people are saying he should, this team's going to be pretty scary. This team is going to be pretty dang scary. And at number 1, I have Jordan Robles. I honestly just think right now he's slightly better than Ryan Cratch. Obviously, he threw his perfect game, but he does a lot of off-speed pitches. He's just very comfortable up there on the mound. He's a great fielder, and he's one of those guys where I just think people just struggle to hit off of him because he's so unpredictable on the mound that, it's really hard for guys to get a rhythm. Like, you might get a hit off of him there, but he'll never go back to that pitch. Like, he's never going to throw the same pitch twice. And if he does, it's going to be in a different location at a different speed. Just such an unpredictable pitcher. Those guys are so hard to hit, especially in MLW. So, yeah. It's probably not very perfect. There's probably a lot of things that you could debate me on. But leave in the comments who you think should be higher, who you think should be lower, who I messed up on. And, yeah, make sure to subscribe. Comment down below, of course, and like the video. Peace.